Hi and welcome back. Attorney Steve Vondran, the real estate lawyer, and we are talking in this episode about BRE, broker accusations. Okay, so this is going to be an overview, general overview. It's not going to have all the little nitty-gritty details, but if you find yourself involved in a BRE, Bureau of Real Estate, or DBO, Department of Business Oversight investigation, responding to a subpoena, handling a complaint, or facing an accusation, this will be a good overview for you. Okay, so let's get going. Again, Word with the Law of Stephen C. Vondran. That's me right there. There's our offices. We serve clients up and down the state of California and also have an office in Arizona. Okay, so what is an accusation? Basically, an accusation is a legal complaint that's made against a licensee. A licensee can be a broker or a salesperson. So it's basically just like filing a complaint. Okay, it's something that usually follows an audit, which is where the BRE comes in and performs an audit of the broker's business practices, or in response to a subpoena/investigation. In other words, you get a subpoena. Usually that means there's somebody who has complained and there's an investigation ongoing. An investigator is assigned to your case, and you may need to go downtown, as they say, and give an interview and provide documents pursuant to a subpoena duces tecum. So if you get a subpoena, that's a real important time to give us a call, and because basically you are under investigation. Now, number 3, audits may be random or they may be complaint based. So sometimes you have random audits that can lead to an accusation, and sometimes there's a complaint that will trigger an investigation which will lead to an accusation. Okay, the risks involved with an accusation are very serious. Obviously, for most people, their real estate license is their livelihood. We do have some people that do real estate as sort of a secondary thing to like a tax service, or a lawyer that has a real estate license as a secondary service. But it's very serious. An accusation means you risk fines, fees, audit fees, and public license stigma. That's probably one of the worst, because what happens is if you're disciplined, that goes up on your public records database, and then anytime somebody's considering hiring you, if they go and look at the license section in the public records database, they'll see that you have an accusation. And nowadays, you will see a link to the accusation, okay? And you'll see a link oftentimes to the settlement stipulation. So it's all there for public consumption, and this is obviously what people make decisions on. So it can be very important. What happens at a real estate audit? Again, as I mentioned, the real estate audit is usually the precursor to an accusation, but it could also be a subpoena, an investigation in regard to a single transaction or a series of transactions, those kinds of things. But what happens at the audit? First thing is the auditor is going to come in. There will be an assigned auditor. You will get an audit date, and you need to basically be ready. There's a bunch of documents that they're going to request. You need to have all your documents ready. They're going to come in and interview the licensee. And I usually say assume that it's going to go about 30 minutes on a minimum to an hour, maybe a little bit more. So there's an upfront interview that goes through your business practices, asks you what you're doing, those kinds of things. There's a whole list of things, and we can help you with those types of questions and let you know what you're going to be facing, mock interviews, so forth and so on. So the interview is usually the first part. Second, there'll be a review of sample files. They may go through, if you're a property manager, they may be going through your files. If you're doing loan transactions, business opportunity transactions, residential real estate, commercial real estate transactions, looking at your files, see what's going on. What kind of records do you keep? Is it neat and organized? Do you have all the disclosures? Is everything signed and initialed? Those kinds of things. So you're going to have a review of your sample files. For trust account number 3, you're going to have a detailed trust account review. These auditors are trained in the world of accounting, in the world of what the records are that you're required to keep. They're going to be looking for separate beneficiary records, reconciliation records, general ledger records. They're going to make sure everything is balancing. They're going to look at signature cards. They're going to make sure that there's no shortages of money. These kinds of things. We have special information on our website, brokercounsel.com. You can find a lot more information about property management audits by Googling Vondran property management audits. You'll find a ton of information that we've put out over the years on that, so check that out. And number 4, reviewing your business practices, business cards, websites, contracts, seeing what you're doing. Okay, so those are just a general overview of what you can expect at a real estate audit. Now, we can be there to represent you at an audit. Sometimes we're over the phone. We're conference called in during the interview process, step 1. Sometimes we're there longer. It really depends on the brokerage and what's going on. Types of compliance violations that trigger accusations. Okay, so the audit or the investigation that we talked about, these things can unveil some shady business practices or non-compliant, maybe a nicer way to say that, some non-compliant business activities that could lead to accusations. Some of the main ones that we see, this is not an exclusive list: dishonest dealing, broker negligence, failure to supervise license activity. The broker has a duty to supervise a license activity. Sometimes we'll see the rent-a-broker who's just there using their license, not supervising any activity, not having a clue what's going on, and those can lead to problems. Those can trigger accusations. And for the big one, trust fund accounting violations, those are some of the record keeping that we talked about. And let's go to the next page. We'll continue that on. Other violations: failure to maintain records for 3 years. Brokers have a duty to maintain all records of real estate transactions for 3 years. Breach of fiduciary duty. This can get involved in some dual agency problems. Secret profits, gouging, commission gouging, all kinds of things can fall under breach of fiduciary duty. Again, those are your duties of loyalty, honesty, fidelity, all the duties that you have, due care, those kinds of things. 7, again, the records, accounting records, separate beneficiary records, the general ledger reconciliations, those kinds of things. And finally, the other big things that we see: commingling, conversion, and embezzlement of trust funds. And those are the kinds of things where it gets very, very serious, where your license is definitely on the line. If you have a property management audit, you owe it to yourself to give us a call, go over our services and what we think we can do for you. We have saved lots of licenses over the years, so we can usually help if there's not something that's too crazy, if you know what I mean. All right, let's move on. Accusation process, what happens? Okay, basically a complaint is filed and served on the respondent. That's you, the licensee, the broker or the agent, the real estate salesperson. You have a very short window to respond with a notice of defense, 15 days to file your notice of defense. Do not miss that. You could waive your right to a hearing. Waive your right to a hearing, okay? The BRE evidence filed is pulled and reviewed by your counsel. That's us. That's what we do. We pull it. We review the evidence. We create our own evidence. We set our witnesses together. We do all that. And then the final part of that is the OAH administrative hearing is scheduled. Okay, so that's just a general overview of some of the things that go on during this process. This is the 360-degree bird's eye view of what goes on. Also, from there, we have prepare and submit settlement proposals. We have negotiating settlements. We have preparing your case for a hearing. And then if it can't settle, the case goes to a hearing. Okay? Let's talk about the different types of license discipline that are possible. There are others, such as reproval and correction, notice of correction, getting things fixed, and those kinds of things that are sort of private types of corrections. But the main ones that we see and deal with on a daily basis are suspensions, license suspensions. Sometimes that can involve a 90-day or a 60-day suspension. Usually we try to get that a stayed suspension so that you're not basically losing any downtime. You're not having any downtime in your real estate practice. So suspensions, there's usually a statutory buyout period where you can buy out certain days, say 30 days of your suspension. So there's other things that need to be considered in regard to that. Number 2, we also have restricted licenses. We have a lot of information out there on restricted licenses. Basically, that's where you, in essence, give up your due process rights. Your broker will need to get involved and closely supervise if you're a licensee salesperson, and you basically lose your due process rights. That means if you get involved in you have a problem, a licensing issue, you could lose your license without a hearing because your license is in restricted status, okay? So that's real important, and that restriction period can be 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, really just depends. Those are things we fight for in the negotiation process as well. So that's a restricted license. Another important point is if you get a restricted license, don't forget to Google Vondren removal of licensing restrictions. Very important to get those removed because you want to get your due process rights back, okay? So number 3, license revocation. Obviously that's the worst. You don't want that to happen. That's where you lose your license, and you know the commissioner doesn't want you with a real estate license. So usually that means you did something pretty bad. Okay, that's license revocation. And the 4th is cite and fine. Basically, that if you can get a cite and fine, that's a fine that you pay. It avoids a public records incident, and that means that usually you have to make sure and double check and get that in writing confirmation. But you know, usually it's not going to be on your public record. So if you can steer your case into a cite and fine, that's a good outcome, usually in most cases. There's also a surrender. It's not talked about on this PowerPoint, but don't forget you can Google Vondren surrender real estate license and get some information on that. You don't have to go through the hearing process. You can surrender your license. For some people, they want to retire. They don't have the money for hearings. They're not practicing real estate. They just really don't care anymore. Okay, so that's the types of license discipline. What happens at a hearing? Your hearing is not in a court of law. It is not in a courtroom. There is not a jury box there. It's not that kind of thing. It's an administrative hearing in front of the Office of Administrative Hearings, what we call the OAH. Okay, so this is an administrative hearing. Usually it's more informal. As I tell my clients, if we go to a hearing, it's going to be you and me. It's going to be a court reporter. It's going to be a judge. It's going to be 1 or 2 attorneys for the Bureau of Real Estate or the Department of Business Oversight, DBO, which handles mortgage lending type issues. It's just like any other case. You're going to have a neutral judge there. You're going to have opening statements. You're going to have closing statements. They're going to put on their evidence. You get a right to cross-examine. You're going to put on your evidence. They get a right to cross-examine. Closing statements. So really, that's kind of the process. At the end, the judge is going to issue a proposed, and it's not going to be in front of you. The judge is going to have time to issue a proposed decision, what the judge's findings are, issue that. That goes to the commissioner, the Bureau of Real Estate. They're going to make the final decision whether they want to adopt that, modify, reject it. You know, the commissioner holds the cards, okay? So that's how these things go. But you're at the hearing, you want to put on a good show, you want to get that hearing in your favor so that hopefully the commissioner will adopt that decision. Our real estate services, we have over 10 years experience litigating, helping clients with all kinds of issues, general business issues, from corporations, transactional disputes. We get involved in transactions, giving advice. We help get earnest money deposits back. We work with real estate non-disclosure cases. We work with arbitrations, mediations, ethics violations, real estate audits, property management audits. We have basically, I think we're the leader. I think we've obtained over 60 broker advance fee agreements. I don't think any other firm touches that. So we're real proud of that. And again, that's a tribute to the relationships we've built over the years. Specifically, I've built those. I've worked really hard to work in really good faith with the Bureau of Real Estate and the DBO, Department of Business Oversight. So breach of fiduciary duty issues. We've served as CUMAS counsel in cases where your insurance company may reserve their rights. So we've got some information on that. Vondren CUMAS counsel will give you some information, and responding to investigation subpoenas. In short, if it involves real estate, if it's social media issues with your business, we can help you. Give us a call, and I'll give you some information on that. Let's get to that last slide there. For more information, you can go to our main website, brokercounsel.com. That's going to take you right through to our Vondren legal page. That's my homepage. That's my website. You can find us there. You can find us on Facebook, Real Estate Law Guy. Join that, subscribe to that. I post real estate information there a couple times a week. For video information, if you're a visual learner, you like to get those videos and popped into you and just watch usually 3 to 10 to 15-minute videos depending on the topic. Attorney Steve Videos takes you to our very popular YouTube channel. We have over 100,000 hits, and we're approaching 1,000 subscribers, so we'd love to have you subscribe to that. And you can find us on Twitter at Steve Vondran. Okay, for more information, 877-276-5084. Flat rate fees are possible. This is one of our really good selling features that most of our clients love, and that is not getting some shocking, crazy legal bills ongoing month after month after month as you fight through these accusations. So flat rate fees are possible in most cases. So give us a call. We're happy to. We look forward to working with you. I hope this has been a helpful overview of BRE, real estate accusations. Take care now.